This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Don't forget, chance to win a pair of Wolves tickets to Game 3 of the series with the Lakers. Hit the talkback, the talkback line. It's not the Wolves talkback line, although I guess in this case it kind of is. Give us your best, funniest, even most insincere, if it's well crafted.
We've got all of those so far.
Reason
very good ones.
That the Wolves will win the series and allegedly shock the world. I think you have up to 30 seconds to do it, and we'll announce the winner by the end of today's broadcast.
Let's go to the Lakers side of things, where I don't like what's happening right now, Dan.
Okay.
You've already mentioned a number of times the Genie Bus takeover of SiriusXM.
3 hours. Yesterday.
Well, ESPN's getting in on the action. An extended sit-down with Luka by Malika Andrews, their NBA Today host. And I don't like the picture they're trying to paint or how they're presenting Luka before this series.
As a victim?
As a victim, as a martyr, as poor Luka, with how Dallas treated him and what Dallas did to him.
Poor guy. He's got to somehow live with being a part of either the most or second most celebrated franchise in the history of the league in Los Angeles, California.
With LeBron James.
Poor Luka.
Luka has heard what Mavs general manager Nico Harrison has said multiple times since trading him to the Lakers. Here's what he has to say. It's just sad the way he's talking right now. I never say anything bad about him. I just want to move on. The fans, my ex-teammates, I'll always keep at heart. It's time for me to move on from there. He told ESPN he was aware of the criticism about constant conditioning concerns and lack of discipline regarding his diet.
He never takes his shirt off. I know that.
I mean, not yet. What if he does it for Game 1? I'd actually respect it tomorrow night. I mean, it's painful depending on how you take it. It mostly came from Dallas, so I didn't want to talk back. But I don't really read that much stuff. I'm just trying to focus on my journey. He was like all of us, surprised when he found out the news that he was traded. He said he was in his bed. My TV wasn't working. I was on my iPad watching a movie, about to go to sleep. First thing I said probably 3 times, is this an April 1st joke? His initial feelings? Sadness mostly. Still in shock, like crazy shock. I felt like my heart was broken, honestly. End quote. Now, his phone was actually broken. He said that he threw his phone when he found out he was traded. And then I think his wife or his girlfriend brought the phone over to Malika to show.
Here's the shattering of it.
This is like our shattered Dallas dreams. Here's the shattered phone. I don't like it.
Well,
it's all part of the conspiracy.
It might be. I guess what surprises me a little bit is I thought we were kind of past this part. I'm almost kind of bored with what his reaction is at this point. I guess there's some new information there, but I mean, I don't. For me, it's how long has it been since the deal? Couple of months, right?
Well, I was in Los Angeles. That was the first week of February.
It's like, okay, we need to sort of relitigate and re-legislate that. I get the fact that the Maverick strategy has been awful from the beginning. You make a deal this combustible, this controversial, this unsellable, frankly, to the public. The most desperate thing you can do is then start floating rumors, and whispers and so forth. What Nico said the other day didn't bug me that much, or I wasn't that surprised when he said, defense wins championships and I don't have any regrets, because I don't know what the reporters think he's going to say. I still think
that I think of it, I really blew it.
Yeah, I mean
that was a mistake.
He's signing his own death warrant at that point, and he might end up losing his job anyway. The weird thing that is also interesting is if you look at this more broadly, weren't they kind of mediocre at the trade deadline last year, and then he made some moves?
Yes,
that actually opened the door
big time
to them becoming what they were.
They were a great team after that
in the NBA Finals.
Yes.
So it's not like every move he's made is bad. And I'll defend him to this point. to this much. We don't really know. I never would have made the deal, or if I was going to make the deal, I would demand more, including the guy that Mike Trudell reminds us is emerging as a third
Austin
member
Reeves.
of the big three, Austin Reeves.
Tertiary scorer.
Exactly. But it's like, well, what would these guys be like if Kyrie hadn't gone down? Because some of the same people who savaged the club for the deal have, on the other hand, said, if he was healthy, based on what else I see, they might be a team nobody wants to play. And I'm
agree with that.
That paints a little bit of a different picture, even if the trade itself, I think, is rather indefensible. I mean, I guess the other thing you have to factor into this is he was going to get, his new deal was going to have to be almost $400 million.
Right.
Almost $500 million. And, could you say, well, you have a right to wonder about committing that amount of money to him. But again, it's hard to defend it if you don't do a better job getting maximum, if you're going to take that extraordinary step. Because it's easy for me to say because it's not my money. I would have said, I think we got to pay him the money. He's too young and too good to give up on in that regard. But I don't care how he's taking it because they're almost setting up like, well, he's going to exact revenge on everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Haven't we had enough on his frustration and his feelings were hurt? Because this keeps coming up. We had it when he went back to Dallas.
Yep.
So this part of the story doesn't interest me. I'm far more interested now, and maybe this is also covered in the interview, with where he is now, where he's fitting in, what he thinks, how this might go going forward, et cetera, et cetera.
And he definitely wants to stay in L.A. and sign long-term. He did mention that with them as well. Rob Pelinka will be the one signing him to that contract. No surprise, but he was given a new title. I guess he wasn't president of basketball operations. He was just general manager. Now, Rob Pelinka and his jacket have been named the president of basketball operations with a contract extension. So more jackets, more wardrobes, more fitness with Rob. I mean, no surprise.
He makes the trade of the year, maybe the trade of the century. And so far, his latest head coaching hire looks like a slam dunk does it not? And again, it's early.
Yeah.
We've seen how many coaches of the year candidates, if he is even that, have ended up getting fired 1 or 2 years later.
A lot of them.
So, nothing is forever, but I think you have to say, overall, given the changes they've made, he's been very good in his first season. The idea that, well, he's going to take him time, he's going to get overwhelmed, I don't think he looks overwhelmed on any level thus far.
No, I mean, and I liked it at the time.
Right.
I was intrigued by it at the time. I thought it was an interesting idea. And it helps when you have LeBron and Luka, of course. Before that, Anthony Davis, of course. But they're a 3 seed. They won 50 games. Playing tonight, by the way, Heat and Hawks on the eastern side for the 8 seed Mavs, the aforementioned Mavs, and Memphis Grizzlies, where I think I just saw John Morant's going to be a game-time decision. He had the sprained ankle from a couple of nights ago. Didn't practice yesterday. We'll see what happens there. The game in Atlanta and the game in Memphis.
I am not a betting man, but the Miami's in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
I think I would put a decent amount of money on Miami, and they have a horrible record, and Atlanta's got some firepower, but I don't know how you trust Atlanta in a situation like this, right?
And Miami's favored by a point.
Miami is a favorite. Yep. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised.
Does the name Luke Keeschall mean anything to you?
I don't think it does.
I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Well, Dan, he's going to mean something to you eventually.
Sure it's not Keuchel?
It's not Keuchel.
Oh.
It's not Keekly either.
Oh, okay.
Is there a Keekly?
There might be. How's it spelled?
Keaschall.
No, that doesning mean anything.
Keeschall?
Okay, Keeschall maybe.
Well, he's in the lineup tonight for your Minnesota Twins. He is a 22-year-old top 100 prospect.
Okay, Gleeman probably knows him well.
And it's funny how we all think. Yeah. I went to Aaron Gleeman's Twitter right away to pull up his story from The Athletic, used one of my 2 subscriptions to learn a little bit about it. We know that Royce Lewis is in here. Matt Wallner just got put on the injured list with a hamstring. We don't really know about Willie Castro moving forward, Carlos Correa moving forward, Miranda, who we talk about, I think, on Enough Said, or at least one of the promos tonight. Hurt himself getting water at Target. Austin Martin, AAA injured list. They go, you know what? We're going to turn to the 2023 second-round draft pick and the organization's reigning minor league player of the year for what will be his big league debut tonight.
Nice.
Against Atlanta.
Why
He
not?
is the number 57 prospect in baseball. But the Twins are in Atlanta, surging to Hotlanta with that 2-game winning streak to take on the Braves tonight. Chris Paddock opposes something called Bryce Elder. First pitch about an hour from now.
And we are trying to get obtain our first 3-game winning streak of the season, correct?
That is correct.
That would be a major breakthrough for us.
We've won 2 games in a row twice. This is the second time we have not yet won 3. We start the series 4 games behind the Tigers for first place.
That's nothing, really.
And a half game behind the Kansas City Royals for third in the American League Central. So that happens tonight. Final grand in your hand or final bonus bucks thanks to BigDeck.com for the evening. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword fun. It's KFAN.com. The keyword is fun. Reminder, we'll pick before the end of the hour our Timberwolves talkback winner for Wolves-Lakers Game 3 tickets 1 week from tonight. You've got 30 seconds. Tell us why you think the Wolves are going to win or break down the series. We've gotten a lot of good entries, but we still have time for a few more. We will play the winner maybe right before Lavelle in about 15 minutes or so. But get your talkbacks in then.
Let's do this. Let's get a quick break in. I've got some text to get to, including some leftover texts about some horror stories when it comes to timeshare presentations. And then we'll prepare for Lavelle at the bottom of the hour.
And
Treasure Island is your ticket to the playoffs. You can head to the island this Tuesday for the official Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Wild Game 2 watch parties. You could win a trip to see the Wolves play the Lakers in L.A. or the Wild play the Golden Knights in Las Vegas. Amazing. Learn more. TICasino.com.
Well, Texter Paul is back. He's very unhappy with Ben Gessling. During our segment with the man who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune, I'd read one of his emails or his texts saying, why aren't we talking about how JJ is working in OTAs? And Ben said, well, I would if OTAs had begun. Paul's back. Gosling was wrong. Vikings OTA started April 15. Gosling needs to start paying better attention to the Vikings.
Excuse me?
I don't know. I mean, I love Paul. I love his interest and his curiosity. But I'm looking at, even a Pioneer Press story. The Vikings voluntary offseason workout program begins April 21. But in terms of organized team activities, May 27 to 28 and June and 30, June 2 to 3 and 5, and June 16 to 18. The team's mandatory minicamp is slated for June 10 to 12. I got to believe that if there were actual, practices where groups of players were assembling offense and defense and special teams, it would be covered. So I feel bad for Paul because he's eager, I guess, and he wants to know. But he's probably at TCO. He might be throwing the football around, but there's nothing to see here yet. There just isn't, no matter how eager he might be.
We got an email today from the Vikings outlining Monday, April 21st, Vikings offseason program begins.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just quoting from.
And the players and Kevin O'Connell is going to have a press conference. So will Aaron Jones, Byron Murphy, and Harrison Smith. Some of the guys, the free agents that I don't think have talked to really since they re-signed or in Harrison's case decided to come back. So they're not going to have OTAs the week of the draft.
It's just
or 2 weeks before the draft.
I just think maybe it's the semantics that he's getting confused on. There's nothing, and the irony of course again is a lot of times when you're practicing against air anyway, I don't even know what you get out of it, no matter how good or bad that he indeed looks. Dan, this is tennis guy. Would it be worth having Rodgers as a backup for $8 to $10 million? He said that's what he'd play for. If JJ is awful or injured, wouldn't you rather have him than Tannehill? Vikings have such a strong overall team. It would be sad if the quarterback position is why they won't be as good as they could have been. Love the show. I wonder if this is the original tennis guy.
I hope it is.
It is. I hope it is too.
I hope it's Tony.
It's great to hear from him if it is.
Down in Orlando now. He's big time.
Oh, is that right?
At least he was, yeah. Working for the USTA.
Plot thickens.
Big time job.
I here's what I will say. The shock jock in Dan absolutely would be intrigued about even this possibility of, God, how good might it be if you got A-Rod as the backup?
Well, I would do that in a heartbeat if that was actually feasible.
Well, but that's what I'm getting to,
Yeah.
is that even if it wasn't feasible, I'd love the story just to see what direction it might go. I don't think he can be trusted as a backup. I'm a guy who is willing to go all in on making him the starter for 2025. I still am. That might be a sick position, according to many, but I still am. As long as until A-Rod is actually signed with somebody else. But I don't think it is even remotely conceivable to play this out and say, we're going to roll the dice with him as a backup. We think he's at a different place in his career, and we think the quarterback whisperer can handle him. Now, as I've said before, it could be the ultimate thing to put on the quarterback whisperer resume if he actually could pull that off. And by the end of that first year, even if Rodgers doesn't play a minute, people are going, my God, he was great on so many levels and so helpful. But I can't possibly take that kind of a risk. Because I think even if Rodgers said all the right things and in his mind said, I can do this, that he could hold to it. I don't think he's capable of adhering to whatever pledge that he would make on the front end to try to persuade the Vikings to consider exactly that. I just don't think his ego would allow him 4 weeks in, 6 weeks in, 2 months in to not be several degrees of disruption depending on the day of the week. Right? I just don't think he could do it. I mean, yeah, in theory, as who would be a better backup quarterback? The answer is nobody.
Nobody.
But I don't think I trust him. I know I don't trust him, even though I'm fascinated with him. I'm willing to take the risk if he's going to be a starter, because then you say, well, that's what he wants to be anyway, and you're giving him one more chance to wake up the echoes. But the idea of, well, he says $10 million, we can certainly afford that, as you mentioned on Enough Said, which is true.
Yep, we have that.
But I don't think there's any chance in hell that I'm willing to throw that kind of Molotov cocktail into the middle of that clubhouse.
Unless the great communicator and collaborator, Kevin O'Connell, who apparently is very tight with Aaron Rodgers, which we didn't really know, I don't think, unless I missed it until Rodgers told Pat McAfee that yesterday, that they text and talk more than people know, and they used to work out together in San Diego, and they talk all the time. What if KOC is supposed to be the great reader of people.
That's it.
Right?
It would be the greatest
and empowering
victory on
people.
his resume.
If he could convince him, this would be a great opportunity for you.
But my guess is, in the end, KOC would say, I can't. I like him. I'm intrigued by him, but I don't think I can trust him. That would be a hell of a finish to the story. No, we are going with JJ. We are committed to JJ. We didn't lie to you about that. He's the starting quarterback, but we are bringing Aaron Rodgers in to be the backup. I mean, that also would be one hell of a story, but all I can say is, as the cliche goes, bring your popcorn. Because the first time JJ, in all seriousness, the first game he struggles. Well, no, the first game he struggles, A-Rod might say the right thing.
He'll help him out.
Publicly.
Yeah.
But by the second game, I don't think he can control himself. Do you?
All of a sudden, they'd cut to KOC in the sideline, and you'd see Rodgers just like
ear.
over his shoulder with his hat on, kind of holding his helmet, just like, I'm good. Doesn't seem like he's handling the Surface tablet very well back there.
Be quite a storyline.
You sure we don't want to throw me in there? I've seen this defense. We're playing the Bears. I never lost to the Bears ever. You sure you don't want to throw me in there?
Oh, that's just too good. That is absolutely too good.
I think tennis guys talked me into it.
You're ready to go for it.
It's impossible and improbable, but A-Rod as a backup would be great. And I think J.J. McCarthy's got a little free thinker in him like A-Rod does, so that could be good or bad. Because A-Rod could kind of talk him into his own hype or out of his own. I don't know.
There's no doubt about that.
Those two could have some interesting conversations.
That's very, very true, Davey. I did have some timeshare horror stories to get to, but I think we're going to run out of time here, and I want to stay somewhat on schedule. We've got Lavelle Neal III. I wonder if Lavelle has ever sat through a timeshare presentation.
Probably not.
I'm guessing no, but somewhere along the line it might have come up. He's traveled a decent amount. We'll find out. We'll get the very latest views from him on the Twins, and we'll talk a lot about the not just the Minnesota Timberwolves, but also his favorite hockey team, the Minnesota Wild. Don't go away.
This is Beth from Champlin, a lifelong Minnesota sports fan. Since I am Team Gaardsy, I'm going to cautiously say that the Wolves will win because of Finch's hair. If you compare Finch's hair to J.J. Redick's hair, Finch wins. Finch has really nice hair, and the fact that Finch has not lost his hair with this inconsistent season demonstrates grit and perseverance, which is what the Wolves need to win. Gaardsy, I give you hair hope. Go Wolves. Hooty-hoo!
Is that our winner, Gaardsy?
Beth from Champlin, you got to with the hootie hoo for
Well
Max,
done.
don't
Yeah,
you?
very well done. Congratulations to her. A pair of tickets to see the Wolves host the Lakers Game 3. By then, will we be on our way to a sweep? Will we take both games in L.A. and looking to make it 3-0?
Oh,
And then with a chance to wrap it up at home without even having to go back
Don't
to
do
Mike
this to me.
Trudell's home?
well, the league's not going to let that happen.
Yeah, that's
you know
probably
that.
true.
They need
Yeah.
at least a Game 5 in L.A.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that.
So anyway, thanks everybody that played all day long on our Timberwolves talkbacks for Game 3 tickets. Wolves and Lakers. Every show got a pair of tickets to give away. Beth from Champlin wins ours.
Yeah,
I don't
congratulations.
know where Lavelle is.
Oh, we can't find him right now? Okay. Well, we'll mix and match until he joins the program. If you have questions for him, did we forget that he's got some big event, something major to cover?
No, I confirmed with him today, 5:30.
Well, that happens with Lavelle every once in a while. He gets distracted.
Falls
He
asleep.
falls asleep. He dozes off.
Maybe he's
He
in a timeshare presentation.
He gets busy. Might be at a timeshare presentation. That's very possible. John, the mail carrier, with a good one. You and Gaardsy have set up a new industry, the athletic subscription exit team. You know, we were talking about you sign your life away for one of these timeshares and you don't know how the hell to get out of it. Maybe there's thousands and thousands of people with the same problem we have, two athletic subscriptions, and we don't know how to get out of one of them. That maybe there is some sort of a market there where somebody could make some serious coinage. And then you give them a percentage of it back. I'm guessing, though, it's not as lucrative because
I don't know.
a subscription.
Once the promos run out,
Well,
I don't even know how much I'm paying for the Athletic.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm afraid to look on. I've sort of given up trying to. Okay, I pay this for this, and how about where did this come from? And do I still use this service? It's. I think a lot of people end up getting intimidated by the entire process. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If you have questions for Lavelle, Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is wide open. That number is 646-86. And I can open. Oh, we got him now. I'll ask him the same question we talked about earlier in the broadcast. In fact, the first segment of the show. Lavelle, where were you? We were looking for you. We were worried.
I'm right here working in my office, and I never heard the phone ring, so it's kind of weird.
Why don't you? I mean, did you have it on silent?
Well, perhaps I'll check once the segment's over with. It's possible. Knowing me, I could have hit some button I didn't know about.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'll ask you where we started the program. I'm not going to ask who has a better chance to make a run. We kind of talked about that last week. But which franchise do you think more badly needs to get out of the first round this year?
More badly?
Yeah, or that's probably not phrased very that. Which franchise needs a first round series win?
Okay, well, if you look at the Wild, they're back in the playoffs after not making it a year ago. They did it in thrilling fashion, having to go down to 22 seconds left in the final regular season game to tie the game and get the point they needed to qualify for the postseason. It's the last season in which they're handcuffed by salary constraints because of the buyouts of Parisian Suter. So I think the grading scale for Billy G gets tougher now because he doesn't have that he doesn't have that governor on him now.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have the funds to go out and augment the roster. So I think there's more of a patience that can be taken. There's a reason to be more patient with the Wild. So I would say the Minnesota Timberwolves, who made a run to the Final Four last year of the NBA playoffs, who then shockingly traded Karl-Anthony Towns, allegedly to avoid some of that second apron terrorism, and did not get a player of Towns' caliber. Towns was the best player in that trade. We watched the trials and tribulations of this squad endure throughout the season. They did get hot at the end, winning 17 of their last 21 games.
Right.
But I think because of where the Wolves were a year ago and the expectations that they were in place at the beginning of this season, even after the trade, I think it's more paramount for the Wolves to get out of the first round than the Minnesota skating W's.
Yeah, I think we're independently all in agreement on that. That was Gaardsy's position, and that was mine as well. We'll be accused of all setting this up beforehand and not disagreeing with each other enough. But
they can win. That's the thing. They can win their series.
Yes.
They have a better chance of winning their series than the Wild do against the Knights.
Well, true. What balances historically, what's supposed to balance that is the number of occasions where there are first round upsets in hockey is far greater, pro hockey, than pro basketball, right? Because of the random nature of the game, right? Random's not even the right word. I would say we all understand how big goaltending can be, how goofy, one game where you get a couple of goofy scores, deflections, that kind of thing. We just see it. Hockey seems to be driven in such a way that it is not as shocking when the underdog team occasionally rises up and wins a series. What we talked about this on the TV show. What's unfortunate for Wild fans is I'm sure they're going, well, yeah, Dan, that sounds good. You keep saying this happens all the time. Then why haven't we done it? It's taken us 10 years, and we still haven't got out of the round one. Because on the basis of that logic, you'd say, well, one or two of the times over the last 10 years where the Wild were inferior, they should have still been able to find a way to win.
Well, could they do it this year? I mean, technically they're 7th seed, but they're kind of punching a little bit higher in the weight class than that because they spent from November 10th through last week shorthanded significantly. And so can they rediscover the form that made them? I think people are considering the Wild like in the top 5 or 7 teams in the league, before Kaprizov got injured. Can he regain that form? Could Kaprizov get back to that level? Because he was on pace, 110, 120 points?
Right.
It was like some ridiculous pace he was on. Can he get that back immediately? Because then it's going to be a series. And, some people believe Kaprizov is the best player in the series among the two teams. Can he get to the elite level? Can he put the Wild in his back? And can the Wild prove that they are better than a 7th seed, which is definitely possible? I think the Wolves have a great chance to win this series, despite the sweeping national mandate that has the Lakers and the 1-2 punch of LeBron James and Luka Doncic moving on. I just think there's some things the Wolves can do to make this interesting. Who is going to stop Anthony Edwards? The other thing too is that they have air superiority. There's no rim protection with the Lakers. Not only do you take advantage of that, you take advantage of it with force. You attack the rim. You have your guys when they blitz Anthony Edwards and the ball starts moving to beat the double teams, and Nasri gets the ball or Jay McGinnis gets the ball. I want to see them attack the basket fearlessly and impose their high flying ability all over the Lakers. I think that's definitely doable. I also want them to make Luka work on defense and see if the Fat Boys actually gotten into better shape as the season's gone along. I just think the Wolves have a chance to pull this one off more so than the Wild.
Yeah, I think. Look, you're right. Nationally, it's mainly Lakers. There's some exceptions though. There are a number of folks who have spoken up. Sam Mitchell on this show yesterday. Now, some people can dismiss that because of his history with the Wolves. But I think he made several good points about why he thinks the Wolves have a good chance. Brian Scalabrine, who co-hosts the SiriusXM NBA morning show, who I think is a hell of a basketball analyst, he picks the Wolves in 6. And so there are people, I think, there are more people out there than you think that give the Wolves more than a decent chance. We laid out a bunch of analytics before the show in which the Wolves are flat out, the second half of the season, superior that in terms of performance. Now, we all know this, Lavelle. The postseason, whether we're talking about hockey or basketball, is a different animal. And even though the Wolves had the nice run last year, some things were exposed last year. It's a different team. Towns isn't here. Randall has not been a great postseason player. That was with a different team. But there are definitely reasons, I think, to believe that the Wolves can absolutely win this series. And you've laid out a couple of them. My biggest all week has been, I want them attacking offensively. I want them going downhill as much as possible. You can't, and I think you feel the same way. And I think they have the people to do it. Is it like? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was looking at Randall's postseason numbers. He hasn't been that horrible. I think he averaged like 70 points one postseason. I think he averaged in the 20s the last time he was in the playoffs. He hasn't been terribly horrible, and he's not going into this as the number one guy. He's going into the number two guy, and I think he could thrive on that, and especially once they spread the floor and he can use his size and his mini playmaking ability. I'm not saying he's like a 6 or 7 assist guy. He's more like a 3 or 4, but I think that can help, man. This is his series to. If he believes there's demons following him about his postseason history, then this is a series for him to shake loose from those demons.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. We said, Gaardsy and I talked about, I think you got to get the old Nas. You're going to have to get a little more from him. And again, the other X factor is DiVincenzo. When, and you never really know until a series starts the rhythm of a given player. He's a good player, but he's, some stretches he's looked better than others. When he's gone really well this year, he's been a really good player. And he's been a force offensively. He plays both ends of the court. He competes. And, when I go look back to when the trade was made, which I basically approved of at the time, longer it went on during the season, I was much queasier about it, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. But when you go back to when the trade was made, what it represented in theory was you've traded away the best player in the deal. Towns is the best player in the deal. But you've gotten 2 legitimate players, you could say starters in return, and the team is deeper. You have an extra wing player. This is the opportunity to show what that depth can do. We had Mike Trudell on earlier, and Trudell wondered whether Conley might have to be the odd man out. And it may well be that at some key parts of individual games, it's Conley on the bench and it's Dante forcing himself onto the court, and that's where you got to get some really good production out of him as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I view Dante as a definitely X factors in this series on both ends of the floor. Defensively, he could be a guy that can kind of maybe stop or at least slow down the terrible twosome, and make him play on the other end. Like I said, when Anthony's getting blitzed, and it's a phrase the Wolves are used for a double team, he could be a blitz breaker. He's a guy who can hit the 29, 30-footer when Ant's double team and make the team pay for forcing him to get the ball out of his hands. The Wolves have a couple of those guys, but I also believe, too, because of the lack of the rim protection, he could be one of those guys that can drive and dunk or drive and draw a foul or drive and lob to Rudy. And Rudy running off the ball is going to be big in this series, too. Yes. And I'm curious to see how the Lakers are going to play that. Are they going to get the Wolves in a situation where they're switching and all of a sudden there's Rudy on Luka. Luka's going, remember this formation, buddy? And how's that going to play out as the series goes along? But yeah, I'm a Dante DiVincenzo fan. I think he's a dog, and I think dogs do their most barking during the postseason.
Let's just say, let's take out the fact that we're based in one of the towns that is playing, whose team is playing in the series. This I think has a chance to be a great first-round series. I really do. I think there are a lot of interesting questions. You've laid out some of them. We've laid out some of them throughout the show. And there's a lot of good to very good to mythic players. This is a series to me that could easily be a conference finals series. And with all due respect to Oklahoma City, a team that obviously has played better than anybody else during the regular season. They've been head and shoulders above everybody. But this is more than a first-round series. And that's what I think, frankly, makes the West so interesting, right? That there's pretty much any series you look at and you go, God, this should be played later. This should not be first round. And I definitely think this is one of them.
Well, I think the West has been I think they've come as advertised this year. I think we all knew that Oklahoma City was coming a year, maybe 2 years out. Definitely last year, like there's a team on the upswing because of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, because of Chet Holmgren and so many other bits, and adding Isaiah Hartenstein and Caruso as core does extra pieces, which I think are really good moves. And I still think they have like 97 first-round picks over the next 3 drafts or something like that. It's crazy how they put their roster together. And so you thought Denver's collapsed. I thought Denver would still be kind of one of the high flyers. Lakers, Clippers you can't sleep on the Clippers either.
No,
you know?
I don't think you can.
Go ahead.
No, you can't. And in fact, it's interesting because Johnny thinks the Clippers are that there's a heart issue with that team that he believes they have to prove they're up to it. I look at them as long as the best player on the team is finally healthy. They're a different team, and they're as dangerous, I think, as anybody in this conference. I've never been a huge James Harden fan, but he's playing really well the way they're put together. That's another team I think you have to look at very closely and say, there's several teams I think could get on a run. And the Wolves are one of them.
Have to prove themselves too, man. They got to prove that they're not going to have the stupid fourth-quarter breakdown.
That's it.
Or if they get in a close situation, they're going to have some sort of brain cramp and all of a sudden forget how to move without the ball or take some crazy shot. Or, as one of your callers, one of your texters famously wrote last year, if they get caught playing with their food.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that should be a Stay Fair T-shirt because it's a double entendre when it comes with the Stay Fair.
We'll keep that in mind. Yeah. I mean, let's face it. The number one advantage that the Lakers have is they have 2 great closers. Luka, very good. And I think even LeBron at this point in certain stretches can be. And the Wolves have had a tendency to have difficulty closing games. So as we talked about with Mitchell yesterday, you either have to close better or you have to dominate enough where you've rendered the last minute of the game almost meaningless, where you're up 8. And so you're now down to, Luka's going to hit 1 dagger 3 to kill you. It's going to have to be one or the other. We'll see. Let me ask you about a couple other things in our remaining time. Gaardsy mentioned in the top 5. I don't even know if we're pronouncing the name right, but the Twins have brought up your guy, Luke. Is it pronounced Keishall? Keishall. Okay, Keishall.
Yep.
Starting at DH and batting 8th in the lineup. He's 22 years old. He's a top 100 prospect, and I think he's being brought up kind of ahead of schedule. So why are we doing this? What do you make of it, and what do you know about him?
Well, this has happened, I would say, about 4 out of the last 7 years with the Twins, that they've had some early offensive emergency where they've had to throw some bodies up there to try to get some consistent run scoring, and this is part of it. Harrison Bader and Willie Castro are supposed to be in the lineup because of their defensive abilities. Rocco's ended up needing those guys because they were hitting okay. They called up Brooks Lee instead of putting him on a minor league rehab assignment because Jose Miranda was playing with his food and forgetting he was safe when he walked off the base and got tagged out, and plus he wasn't hitting or fielding. So I think this is another attempt to get a bat in the lineup, man. They sent down Mickey Gasper, it's a cute story about how he's been in the minors for 9 years and, was in his first opening day, but he looked just totally overmatched at this level. Keishall was coming back from Tommy John surgery, so he's been limited to second base activity. He's a second base / outfielder, which is a interesting combination. He's a very good-looking man. He has Matt Boldy hair. He has a wonderful swing. I saw him for the first time in spring training. when they were playing against the Rays in Port Charlotte, and in Northport, and kid looks like he could hit. Looks like he's a hitter, man. And so I think the Twins are going to give him a shot here. He's starting to DH tonight, and we'll see how it goes. But, Will Kiesel he was the Twins representative in the Futures game last year, and that's when I started paying a little bit of attention to him. So now we're forced to pay a lot of attention to this young man. Isn't
part of it, too, I think, when a team seems to struggle as much offensively as the Twins have, it's almost liberating. Like, well, what do we got to lose? Maybe he's ahead of his time, or maybe we get a little something, a little spark going to get us out of this funk. I know we've won our last two, but the overall record is not great. So I think it almost becomes easier to say, yeah, maybe this is a little early, but why the hell not?
And I think we should be watching Carlos Correa here over the next couple of games. He's in the starting lineup at shortstop tonight. But to me, when you tweak a wrist or anything that you do anything to your hands as a hitter, that's like the most precious thing you have are your hands. And if he's dealing with some hand injury and trying to hit, I don't know how that's going to turn out for the positive. Now, he's going to play, so apparently he feels well enough to give it a chance here. But I think he's in the aggravation zone where if he takes a swing a certain way, he may aggravate whatever is going on in that wrist. So I'm watching him carefully. He is in my crosshairs over the next 2 or 3 games to see if he can actually pull this off, or does he need to go on IL to make sure that hand is good.
Lavelle is brought to you by Allery's Bar and Barbecue, as usual, in downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuttles as well. I don't know that it's that surprising, but it still was well noted, and I think worth noting at the time. The Twins had their smallest paid attendance crowd, announced crowd, since they moved to Target Field. Does it surprise you at all? Is it a sign of what is likely to be, you could say, a fairly lonely Target Field, especially if the team struggles? What did you make of those numbers?
Man, it reminded me of my first couple of years on the Twins beat in 98, 99 when they called up 18 rookies. They called up 18 rookies in 99 and 2000. And I was sitting in the Metrodome, and it looked like there were like 6,000 people in the seats, and there was rumors that the Saints were outdrawing the Twins. It looked like that when that 10,000 attendance game occurred, man. I hate to say it, but it just seems like there's a little bit of a dark cloud settling over this franchise with all the things that have happened since the end of the 2023 season, when they neglected to add on to the roster after breaking a long playoff drought. This thing has been one thing after another injury after another, blowing a lead during the second half of the season type of thing, barely adding to the payroll this off season and getting off to a slow start. I think it's just been steamrolling the wrong way for them, and they can't even get to the part where they're Sisyphus, just trying to push the rock up the mountain. They can't even get to the point where the rock is starting to move, So the only thing that's going to cure this is winning. They need to pile on some wins. They got to a slow start last year, and then won 20 straight games to go 19-13. I don't know if they need to go 12 in a row now, but they need to have a stretch when they maybe go 15-5.
Yeah, they do.
And get people a little more interested in what's going on the field instead of lamenting all the things that are going on off the field. They're in a spot where the only thing that's going to fix this right now is winning, because there's no indications have been pretty quiet on if there's going to be another bid on the team or not, if someone's preparing one or not. So the likelihood of knowing the future ownership probably won't take place to the next off season. So you got this season, you got this summer, and the Twins need to win, or it's going to be a long summer.
What do you got for Sunday?
I wrote hockey. I did a story on Frederick Gaudreau because he was horrible last year, and he was much better this year. I think he got to 18 goals, and he's one of those secondary scoring type games. Yep. And I went about this, and John Hines kind of
tertiary
teed me up too.
Yeah.
So I had this theory about, in the postseason, it's not just about great players, it's about anybody contributing. And I just started asking Hines about Gaudreau, and he pretty much wrote my column for me, talking about how the great players sometimes cancel each other out. So you need a Gaudreau to come in and do something big. So that's my column for Sunday, right in time for the first game of the playoffs. I'd like to tell everybody that the Minnesota Star Tribune is planning unprecedented digital coverage of this year's NBA and NHL playoffs involving our local teams. We're going to have not one, but 2 online columns after every game. So flock. Move your fingers as fast as they can to type out www.startribune.com and get a subscription and enjoy reading postseason coverage.
How much is the iHeart the iHeart Radio app is free? Is the subscription to the Star Tribune free?
I'm sure there's a deal where you can get the first month or so or 2 months for free.
For like
and
a buck,
if you are a high school graduate, you can get a free subscription to the Strip for the first 6 months. There's a link on our website that allows you to take advantage of that.
That's actually a very good deal. You guys should promote that some more.
Yeah, we should, and we actually are expanding our high school coverage. When it comes to clicks, we get so many clicks on high school stories, and high school events. We actually live streamed a couple prep playoff games, and the numbers were awful. So we're going to double down on our high school coverage. We're actually going to double our staff and have more prep stories in the paper, folks. So get ready for that coming up definitely in time for the next school year.
Thanks, man. We'll be reading Sunday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Lavelle Neal III. Interesting text just came in a little while ago. What other series are you interested in watching? We'll attempt to answer that question, get to a couple of other tertiary items, and prepare to wrap things up by 6:30 right here in the Fan. What other first-round series are we interested in, on the NBA side at least, according to Texter Guy? Clippers-Nuggets. I'm fascinated with this series because a lot of people are ready to write off Denver.
Exactly.
And I understand why to an extent, but I say, you still got the best player in the league. And if Murray can get on a little bit of a roll, they've got guys who've been through this stuff. They've been through the meat grinder. They got ground up by us a year ago, but went pretty well for them the year before. I do like the Clippers a lot, but I just want to see, does Denver can they summon up enough? Because I don't think they're going to go, I don't think any team with Joker is going to go quietly. They make that late coaching change. Clippers are, like I said, they're a fascinating group because they're such a nice mix of players, right? They obviously have star power players that have very familiar names, but they also have, I think, they've got good role players across the board. I mean, they'd be tough for, I think, any Harden's playing really well, even though, like I said, I haven't always loved them. But you see who's become an important player for that team? Chris Dunn.
Yeah.
Chris Dunn.
Tibbs guy
going way back. I remember when they drafted him, I thought it was a heck of a pick, and it didn't work out very well for a long time. He's found a home. He's a factor for them, especially defensively. He has worked very well, and he's improved his offense to...
His shooting was always a problem here.
His shooting was definitely
Tibbs loved his defense. Good length.
But good length can like you said, can indeed kind of hold his own is kind of the feeling. So I think that series is intriguing because Kawhi Leonard seems healthy. Now, will he break down again? That would change everything if he does. Kawhi Leonard is back to playing exemplary basketball. So I do like that series. Let me scroll down.
I like Rockets Warriors too, just because is Houston,
yes,
Oklahoma City from a year ago, maybe overachieving, a good regular season team, but a year or two away.
Correct.
And what do the Warriors have left?
That's right.
That's interesting.
I also think Pistons-Knicks is.
That was going to be my next one.
The Knicks, they've had some injuries. They've kind of been a little bit up and down. And there's a couple of young teams that are intriguing. And you say, are they ready to make some noise? Could they scare somebody? And a lot of people think they they've played well against the Knicks. The Knicks have home ice, but I'm intrigued because I want to see what Detroit's all about. That's a very intriguing matchup. What else do we have on the list here? Bucks Pacers. Okay.
Sounds like Dame's targeting game 2 to come back.
Game 2. Okay. Well, here's what's weird. They completely redid the offense and basically have had Giannis be the point guard. And their offense has been very good with that. And if you're going to, you can't say no to bringing Lillard back, right? But it'll change again the way they have played, and they've kind of settled into a kind of a nice new zone. Magic Celtics, I just don't think there's much way that's going to end up much of anything. So I guess those would be the main ones for me. And I think as much as I wouldn't be at all surprised if Miami takes care of Atlanta tonight. I don't think they can be a threat. I just don't think they got enough going on right now to be a factor and be a team that can upset anybody at this point in a best of 7 series. Anything else?
Those were the ones.
Those are the ones for you.
Well, the Knicks thing is fascinating because there's so much pressure on them because they have been good for the last few years, right, in the regular season. They're the team that makes the big move, too. They think they're a player away from being a big-time contender. Yes. Or at Karl Anthony Towns, they tried forever to get him. And obviously they had really good regular season success. They've kind of meandered, like you said, towards the end with some injuries and things like that. But there's a lot of pressure on them because they made that move thinking they were going into contending now time. Whereas the Wolves made it, I think, saying, yeah, we're going to contend. We have our big goals. But this is more about what can we do the next 3-4 years with Anthony Edwards with all the contracts that are coming up. The Knicks, Brunson took a pay cut essentially so they could afford a Karl Anthony Towns and not get crushed by the second apron, right? This whole thing was to build that team up and bring him there. And I just think there's a unique pressure there. And the unfortunate thing for them is they're in the conference where the Celtics are so good.
Yep.
Cleveland obviously is not come out of nowhere, but taken a step that I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to take. And now what are the Knicks going to be? And, Cleveland is, I should say, Detroit. Nobody thought Detroit was going to be here, right? Didn't they lose 21 games in a row last year?
They were awful last year.
And so no one thought, they're just happy to be there, borrowed time, the whole bit, found money, just go out and play fast and free.
So if the winner of Miami-Atlanta tonight, it would play Cleveland in the first round as the number 8 seed. Again, on Miami's pedigree, I'd say they could make things maybe a little more competitive and more interesting than on Cleveland than Atlanta could. I guess the X factor on whether Miami could be an interesting dark horse to steal a series is Tyler Hero, right? If Hero performs like he did against the Bulls
at 38,
he was tremendous. Then you say, well, who knows? Maybe they got a little bit more. It's hard to look at their firepower and say that they have enough, but he's they guard. They still know how to play. The Mavericks Grizzlies winner will take on Oklahoma City, and I don't see. I don't think it matters in that. I don't. The Oklahoma City. I'm still not convinced Okie City is unbeatable.
Right.
But I think in the first round they will be. I don't think there's any chance that they're going to run in any kind of difficulty to you in the first round.
I would think Memphis would have a better chance than Dallas would, just because of Ja. Ja's such an X factor. He can go so crazy. They got a couple of guys that can hit shots. They're going to guard you a little bit. But no, if I wouldn't bet on them to win it. But if you're asking me which team tonight has the best chance, I think I'd probably say Memphis. But even Ja being banged up is a part of that too. Yeah, that's part of the story there too, as well. You're right. So, like I said before, the 3-6 Lakers-Wolves matchup is as good a first-round matchup, I think, as you're going to find. But I do think I want to see if Denver is the 4, so they have home ice. Yeah.
Right? For whatever that's worth.
Had the Warriors won, the Wolves would be going to Denver.
That's right.
It would have been the 4 or 5 that way.
That's correct.
They're going to be the most interesting, I think, because what are they going to be? Is someone else gonna step up for them besides Joker? Are they gonna try to win one for Adelman here? Because you still have Joker, and he's still so good.
I don't think they lost since they made the coaching change. That's at a lot of games, and who knows what that's about? That could be coincidence. But as crazy as it is to hire a guy who's won the title 2 years ago, given what we're hearing out of there now, it does seem as if there was a lot of acrimony and a lot of difficulty going on behind the scenes. Somebody said, I guess I forgot the game started at, I think 6. Miami's already up 10-0 on the Atlanta.
You saw that one clearly.
Hawks. That's not a tough one to.
It is 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I think they started. The first game was at 6 o'clock tonight. I'll tell you what. Let's get a break, and we got a couple of texts on the first round matchup question, and we will wrap up the program. Remind you what you missed earlier, and also what we have coming up on sermons. Don't go.
Show wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
I missed this story completely. Bad news, troubling news on Greg Popovich. Did you see this?
I did. The restaurant fainting.
He left a local restaurant in an ambulance. This was, I guess, Tuesday night after officials say they received a call for an elderly person who had fainted while eating dinner. And it was Greg Popovich. Apparently still dealing with the effects of the mild stroke that he suffered back in early November. I think by the time he was in the vehicle, he was conscious and doing better. So I don't know if this was just a little bit of a dehydration or if this is related to what had taken place before. But it's certainly looking more and more like he might just have to retire. I think he's now, I believe he's 76 years old. Adam from White Bear Lake writes, Dan, honest to God, don't the Lakers have more pressure on them to advance to us after the trade? Yes, 100%.
You got to make them feel it.
You absolutely have to make them feel it. There is, because the people who are fawning over the Lakers right now, they'll turn on them. If they do not get out of the first round with the big move that they made, it'll be, boy.
Lost to the Wolves?
What? That didn't work out very well. Now, the comeback to that would be, well, all along, the Lakers didn't make this move for the rest of this season, and that's what made it a smart move. They made this move for the next 10 seasons, quite frankly. So it's not as if it's over for the Lakers if they don't get out of round one. But, yeah, all of the heat to that extent. The heat may be on the Wolves here, but that doesn't matter nationally. Nationally, the bigger story by far would be the Lakers did not get out of round one. Although, as I said earlier, if the Wolves do win this series, they will become the national media darlings again. It'll be like, we should have realized. I mean, they're a good team, and they're deep, and they made it to the conference finals last year, and they're figuring some stuff out, and there's no reason that they can't make another run this time around. Want to thank our guest lineup today, Mike Trudell, Orno Zone, who is now, of course, part of the Lakers broadcast, sideline reporting, etc. He joined us between 3:30 and 4. Gessling at 4:30 and Lavelle at 5:30. Enough said tonight on Fox 9 Plus at 7:30. And on regular Fox 9, they tell me at 10:30. This is after a big UFL game.
Right, wasn't it Michigan versus Memphis?
That's it.
Lori told us.
That's what it is. And there is, as you mentioned,
I can't believe we're not carrying that teams on the Fan.
Well, maybe we are, and maybe one of our sister stations.
It's on the Plus, maybe?
Might be on the Plus. Fan on Demand tonight and Dan Patrick. And then, of course, the Wolves will be on the Fan tomorrow night from Los Angeles. And the Wild will be on the Fan Sunday night from Las Vegas, right? That's the plan. And,
Intrepid fans could do both if they wanted.
They could. I hope this is one of those years where each team, gets out of the first round.
Oh, it'd be so fun.
How much fun it would be in terms of storylines and angles and talking to people and reading some things.
One day we'll get there.
It's something they take for granted in some markets or have historically, like Boston, right?
I told you that story.
Right.
Listen to Boston radio at this time around the marathon. It was just stupid how spoiled they were.
But here, it's practically unprecedented.
It's never really happened.
It's never really happened. If it has, it's happened very, very, very seldom. So, in any case, that's the plan. I haven't run this by Horton yet because it'll be very early from a time zone standpoint in L.A., but I'm hoping to get him on sermons to react to Game 1 of the series, because Game 1 will be in the books by then. I'll see if I can persuade him. A number of people have said that Double T last Saturday and in the Zone projected that he thought the best first-round matchup for the Wolves was the Lakers. Do we know what his rationale in particular was?
I did not hear in the Zone last week. I don't know. But he knows ball.
So I'm assuming that he's quite comfortable with this matchup and thinks the Wolves have a good chance. I really do, too. I know both of you and I have been up and down in the club and very unhappy with them at certain points, and they still have to prove they can finish games. That's still on them to prove. Something that we're all queasy about because they've made us queasy about it. But I do like the 17-4 record. Again, it was a softer schedule. We grant that.
It was softer than the Lakers, too.
Definitely true. But I think overall liked the direction they went in. And I like how energized Rudy is. I think they got to be really stubborn about not panicking on Rudy. I really do. And if even the first game he struggles and they take advantage of him defensively, I think you have to try to make him a big part of whatever you do. I think you can make them, if you have other people going downhill, specifically Edwards, I still think DiVincenzo to a degree, and Julius Randle, he should be able to get several dunks in this game. Each game in this series, or many games in this series, because of the advantage. Because the Lakers' best lineup, as laid out by Trudell, involves literally not even a pseudo center. They've just given up that ghost, and it's been effective for them. But I think you have to try to make them pay for that approach and that lineup. So
get your nap in tomorrow. Drink your coffee.
I'm going to have to.
We didn't do our tips today. We should have given everybody tips.
Oh, that's right. We didn't. Well,
what be time?
When is the latest time for the Wild Series?
10 o'clock on Tuesday.
Yeah, so we can do that even Monday and Tuesday. Give them tips to try to stay awake. And I'm guessing, is it a 10 that could become like a 10-25?
Oh, it'll be because they're trying to wedge in 3 games.
3 games, yeah.
Absolutely.
NBA doesn't do that, dude.
I don't think so. Not on a weeknight.
Not on a week. They do it certainly on weekends.
Yeah, including tomorrow.
You're able to start, obviously, a lot earlier, so you don't have to finish quite as late as well. So that's the plan. I think I mentioned Dan Patrick will follow the usual fan on demand. I hope you have a terrific weekend. Enjoy if you're into play-ins, that's tonight in Twins. Whatever tickles your fancy, and then the real stuff starts tomorrow and Sunday, Stanley Cup playoffs and NBA. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you Sunday morning at 9.
A lot of things that are easily correctable.
Whenever you need me, I'll be there.
Well, see you later.